All right. My name is Nabeel Mahmood. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO for an initiative called Nomad Futurist. I'll start with a quick story. I've been in the data center sector and information technology space for about 2.5 decades. Purely fell into the space by an accident. This was not my choosing at all. I was going to play professional cricket. Long way short is I used to play polo, fell off the horse, and the horse fell on top of me, and shattered my left leg, so it had a compound fracture, and my L1 through L3 had to be infused, and I was told I could never walk again. That resulted in me trying to figure out what I was going to do when I grew up. And I left the UK and moved to America, and here we are, 25 years later. When I moved to America, I still did not know anything about technology. I mean, that was not really on the forefront. I was a mathematics major with a minor in statistics and English literature, and never really thought that technology was my space. It was too difficult. However, I got engaged in this organization out of the Bay Area, and these folks were intuitive, very smart. But the thing that took me in was the fact that they were very personable and they were welcoming and they were willing to open their arms and take somebody in from out of the space and teach them. So that's how I started my career. I started my career in the software business, ended up in security, and the next thing you know, I was on the technical stack, building infrastructures, and ended up building, designing, and operating a bunch of data centers. Well, most recently, I was a CIO at a company in California, and 8 years ago, I had a little bit of a life-changing event. And that was, I had 2 heart attacks, and I was dead on arrival. That was a sign to leave the valley for good. So I packed my bags and I moved to Hawaii full-time, with the premise of trying to figure out what was I going to do when I grow up. You know, I had gotten to that perfect American dream that we have seen and what we have been positioned to do and taught to do, yet I was not satisfied. And a reason for relocating to Hawaii was trying to figure out what my purpose was. So there was a lot of inner soul searching and trying to reconnect with life in general. So I left the corporate world and figured I was going to do something on my own. We started a podcast. Look around over here. One of the challenges that you're going to see is that there isn't enough young blood in our sector, and that's globally speaking. What I realized was that we've got to create opportunities at a very young age. Now, I'm going to just add to a little bit more theatrics to this. Well, 2 years ago, I was playing in a tournament in Montclair, New Jersey, and ended up with another cardiac arrest, which resulted into another heart attack, and I was on life support for 48 hours, and I walked away as a bionic man with a new titanium rod planted in my sternum and a quadruple bypass. Changes the entire perspective on life, changes the priorities, changes how we live and what are we living for. And that's how we started the entire initiative called the Nomad Futurist. And the idea behind that is to create opportunities for the younger generation. The idea behind that is to open this sector globally for everybody so they become our advocates. Now, how are we doing this? Let's look at some numbers. Now, in the information technology sector, and these are some of the surveys that have been conducted by the likes of 451 Research, with Uptime Institute and others, that 40% plus of the existing workforce that exists in the data infrastructure sector has been in this space for about 25 years. Bloody hell. Okay? What does that mean? What's the average work age or tenure in America? Roughly about 30 years. So, in the next 5 years, we're going to have a retirement party every day. Okay, that's one issue. Secondly, you look at the market. We are growing. I mean, we are hearing a lot of talks about artificial intelligence. We are hearing a lot of talk about big data, cloud, 5G, machine learning. We are basically heading into an autonomous culture where, hey, we're going to be like that movie Minority Report, sitting in the back, enjoying the world, and everything happens by itself around us? Well, okay, yeah, that's another discussion. But that's kind of like the trend that we are heading towards. So what does that mean? Well, the market is growing roughly at a 30x multiplier year over year over year over year. And COVID has been our biggest advocate. I mean, digital transformation, we were having a conversation yesterday. Digital transformation was just a topic, it was just a concept about a decade ago. Like we were all talking about that in the boardrooms, but weren't really doing anything about it. COVID normalized it. The virtual experiences were normalized during that COVID timeframe. Economies flourished. We were all in business. As a matter of fact, this sector came out behind the curtains to the forefront. So the Wizard of the Oz is out in the open now. Hence the reason why we need to advocate, why we need to address the human capital deficit that's in front of us, because at the rate that we are growing, we cannot replenish the existing talent pool that there is. And even if you're able to do that, the biggest worry that I have is the fact that the market is growing by 30x year over year. Where are we going to get that access to the talent? Okay? A lot of challenges come alongside with that. So for instance, let's talk about the fact that we are pursuing a sustainable infrastructure environment. The challenge that we have is that the sector is growing so quickly, we don't have enough workforce, and that workforce is not able to communicate across all the sub-verticals and business units that we have, which is creating a bigger issue. So, simple examples. Being in the data center business, I look at a lot of things. So, when we start looking at the metrics pertaining to what the utilization of an existing data center is, globally that number is sub 40%. So I've got over 60% stranded capacity, stranded resources that are allocated to a data center, yet I'm talking about sustainability. Let's increase those metrics up. Let's get up to 80, 90% utilization. That's what they're designed for. But the challenge isn't just that. The challenge is the fact that we are not cross-synchronized. The guy, the gal that's actually at the facilities level, designing, building, and operating a data center, they do not understand what's actually happening at the user interface level or at the application level. That application level person is as important as the facilities level person is. The application person is actually defining what the GPU, CPU utilization is. What is the memory utilization? What is the power utilization? Not just at the server level, but actually at the printed circuit board level, which is resulting into over-designing, over-capacity, underutilization, and this whole scalability discussion. So what we are doing is we are trying to get to the younger people. The future is today. What we have today, we can't just put a Band-Aid on. You know what happens when you put a Band-Aid on a wet cut? It creates pus. And that's the bloody problem. We need to get to the root of it. And the root of it is the younger generation. We need to plant the seeds. So when these kids grow up, looking at all of this innovation, it's muscle memory. Tiger Woods is a great example. The guy shatters his ankle, breaks his leg, and guess what? He still goes out and wins the Open. Well, you know why he won the Open? Well, of course, he's got that brain power and the fact that he can just tune everything off, but it was because of muscle memory. You look at any great athlete in the world, anybody, Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods, you name it, Ben Hogan, whatever the case might be. You know why they're that good? It's because of muscle memory. They all started their careers at a very young age. They were all exposed to it at a very young age, but the reason why they became who they are today is because of the passion that they were able to identify. And that is really our purpose. Now, as a child, I'm a perfect example. Fell into space purely by an accident, not my calling, fell in love with it, cross-trained myself. Now, why can't we do it more systematically? So what we are doing as Nomad Futurist, as a foundation, we're launching an academy next year. We are actually very excited to have Dana over here as well, and we're working in collaboration with the school district and plenty of them globally. And the idea is to basically be that connected tissue blend into the existing educational system without trying to change it, right? Be that connective tissue, be that force, create that level of interest, and provide the resources. I am a firm believer in exposure, 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 because exposure results into experiences which result into innovation. And people get hungry, right? I mean, education doesn't need to be a very typical way. It doesn't have to be a 40-minute class session. This is education. Me having a conversation with you guys, that is education. I mean, you're teaching me, I'm teaching you, we are working together as a team, and that's really the idea behind the foundation, the initiative. So, our charter is that we're going to launch this academy next year. Our charter is we're going to work on developing internship programs. We're going to be working on developing job programs and job placements, as well as scholarships for higher education along the way. And hopefully these people come into this space with innovative ideas and they can address these challenges ahead of us, which is sustainability, for instance. I mean, that's really the core of every single discussion. Now, worst case scenario, they all become good and smart digital citizens. Okay? One of the challenges that we have, and we talk about the challenges, but we are coming up with a solution, right? So the challenge that we have is all these media pundits, you know, data centers are bad, technology is bad, artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, robots are going to rule you, you won't be able to do anything, and life is going to be like Minority Report or Repo Man. Well, you know, artificial intelligence, so the core definition of it is artificial. It will never displace human intelligence. If you look at the root of it, it is artificial. Intelligence can never be artificial, right? It is there, it's been there for day one, the day that Abacus was designed. Abacus is an example of artificial intelligence. So we are basically streamlining the processes, and that's what really AI is doing. So I think that overexposure and media pundits selling and creating this chaos is dangerous. And by us getting to the root of it and educating the younger generation very early on in the process, that solves the problem to a degree. That we don't have all this fake news and fake media and fake push that things are bad. Yeah, look at this. I mean, life is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we are living in a digital era. We are living in the data rush era. And life is great. I mean, how much more comfortable can it be? And we got to look back in time as well. I mean, is anyone willing to go back and live in the Stone Age and go hunt in the wild? I don't think so. You do like your Tempur-Pedic mattress. You do like driving your Tesla on Highway 101. You do like traveling the world and experiencing the world. It's innovation, and we're going to keep progressing and moving forward, but we have to get to the root of it. And the root of it is education, exposure, experiences, and I want to bring younger generation into this sector. OCP was kind enough to allow us to bring about a half a dozen kids yesterday. They were kind enough to open the doors for the educators as well. So a part of our mission is to educate the educators. And in order for us to be the change, or make that change, we have to be the change. We have to change individually. And I'll tell you this, folks, the best thing that I've ever done in my life is to open up, to be vulnerable, and help others. And that's our mission. So, you know, please feel to reach out. I think we've got some information over here that you're going to have in the back of the slide deck. And if you have any questions, I'll be around. And thank you for listening, and thank you for being here, and thank you for your support.